Welcome back to Malfunction Junction. This is Dan. Um, this is the video that will come after the Jeep Wrangler Heavy Metal review. So this is kind of the taking a look under the hood video. So I've gotten the body off. I've gotten the wheels and tires off. And I've removed the brain box. So this is what you would see like if you're looking down at it from the top. Looking down at it from the top, that's what it looks like. This wire is number one. This is for your rear end. This is your rear motor. Number one. This runs to, let me see here. This one is number two, and this one is number three. And they run to, one goes to the steering box, and the other goes to the front drive motor. Now, on the brain box, see your slots here, which are usually covered with this junk right here. They try to make it impossible for you to be able to unplug the wires. And you do got to be careful when you take it off, or you can damage these things. But anyway, moving on. The slots here, 1, 2, and 3. So this is your rear motor. This is either the front motor or the steering mechanism, and this is either the front motor or the steering mechanism. It's hard to tell right now. I'll have to get the front end apart, which I'm going to do eventually, before I'll know which slot is what. But it's probably actually this one that's for steering. So if you look here at figure A, look right up here. If I can point to it. I haven't used the camera like it's a mirror. Right there, see how the axle piece, the outer axle piece, just how it's easy to, how it's wobbly. But if you look closely, you'll see that there's a lot of room around it, a lot of space around it. So I think that I may have a way to fix that. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I think I may have a way to fix that. As far as the steering goes, remember in the review when I talked about how awful the steering was? I want you to see how limited it is. That's as far as it goes to the right. And this is as far as it goes to the left. Now, I don't think that it's the axle housing that's preventing it from steering as far as it could with modifications. I mean, without modifications. Excuse me. No, I think it's something on the inside in this area. I think it's actually, it's hard to see, but it has a relatively narrow plastic axle. If you look closely, you may be able to see it. It's really skinny. It's about. It's not. It's not even as thick as the diameter of a pencil. It's narrower than the outer axle or the axle mounts. So I think the end here. I think the outer housing. Sorry. I think this outer housing here of the knuckle is actually rubbing on that axle. So I may be able to trim these on the inner part. I won't know until I take it apart piece by piece and examine it thoroughly. But I may be able to cut that back. I may be able to, starting from the inside and going out, I may be able to shave that back to where it is capable of steering a little sharper. um, the only other problem is this. Leaning forward like that makes the wheels, when they steer, it'll cause them to actually lean a little bit rather than being level and steering. And it causes them to, like, instead of steering like this, they're actually steering a little bit like that, turning but also leaning. And that's a problem. So the answer to that problem is to find a way to make the steering box level, like so. And as I pointed it out in the unboxing, this little piece right here, where one of the keys went to lock it into the box when it was boxed, an electronics tie, kind of like this, but a little longer, could be tied to that one piece, and the other end could be attached possibly here around this, but then you'd have to put some kind of a cap or something on here to keep it in place. I don't know yet. I'll see. But another problem is when the steering box is level, the dang it, the whatchamacallit during steering will cause a rubbing up against the shocks, up against the springs of the shocks. So that could be a problem too. Other than that, the suspension is decent. Let's see. Compression on the rear. That's how far it'll compress on the rear, which is not all that bad. On the front, compression is good too on the front. Now, with the body off, of course. With the body on it, it wasn't that good. Ability to articulate. Let's see here. On the rear, that much. On the front, that much. So that's decent. But there's another problem. The shocks are a little too stiff. And there may be a way around that. I'll have to sit down and do a little bit of brainstorming to figure out what to do about that. There may even possibly be a way to put better quality toy grade shocks on. And the reason I say that is because the tops are screwed. The tops have screws, but the bottoms are pop on. They're popped on the little ball joints, and these parts have screws here on the chassis area. But once again, down here, see, down here and down here, they pop over a little nub. So it's going to be an interesting experience modifying this, but I'm not going to let the idea that it could be difficult to a degree, I'm not going to let that stop me. In fact, that makes me want to do it even more. And I love a challenge. Another thing that I just noticed right here, the reason this, the motor housing, it cannot be made level is because of these pieces here sticking up so high. It cannot make it under the shock, so that could actually be trimmed down to where when it's sitting on all fours, this piece could end up being level and sitting the way it should. The only other problem is that the rear axle, if you grab either end of the axle nub, you can wiggle it just a little bit. Same thing on the other side. In fact, if you grab both of them at the same time, you can feel that there's too much space around the openings of the axle area, which causes it to be able to jiggle just ever so slightly. And that's going to cause a problem with friction somewhere down the road. So I may have to come up with, I may have to pop the rear end apart and take a look at that too and see about modifying that. But as far as electronics goes, my goal is not to make it faster. My goal is to make it more of what it was supposed to have been, what it was obviously marketed as, a four-wheel drive vehicle, high riding four-wheel drive vehicle that should be able to take on uh, four-wheel drive challenges. And the tires, the tread on the tires was obviously crawler treads. So this was supposed to have been a rock crawler. The goal here is to turn it into a rock crawler without going too far into it. I mean, I'm not going to jump online and order a servo and an ESC and all that other stuff and a special high quality battery. No, it's not necessary. You'd be surprised what you can do with spare parts from other toys. And that's what my intentions are. And I do have spare parts from some hobby grade stuff that I might throw in too. So this will be part one of the new Bright Jeep Wrangler. I wish I were a rock crawler. So this part of I wish I were a rock crawler is inspection. So if anybody sees this someday, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and have a good day. Oh, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And please subscribe, because I do intend to continue with this project and not just leave you hanging, wondering what happened. Why didn't he do anything else with it? So there it is. Thank you. Goodbye.